Shelbert the turtle watched, his neck craned high, as Eagler soared above the sun-drenched savannah. Eagler, with his majestic wings and effortless grace, was the envy of every creature in the valley. Shelbert, on the other hand, spent his days slowly, methodically navigating the tall grasses, his progress measured in inches, not miles. Oh, to fly! Shelbert sighed. A tiny puff of air, barely disturbing a blade of grass. To see the world from such heights? Days turned into weeks, and Shelbert's admiration for Eagler only grew. He'd often sit by the riverbank, watching the eagle dive for fish, its shadow a fleeting darkness across the water. He'd imagine himself soaring, feeling the wind beneath his shell, a sensation utterly impossible for a creature built for the earth. He'd try to mimic the eagle's movements, stretching his legs and lifting his shell slightly, but it was a pathetic imitation. He began to feel a pang of inadequacy, a deep-seated envy that gnawed at his contentment. One day, dark clouds gathered, and the wind howled a mournful song. The river, usually a gentle stream, began to swell, its waters rising rapidly. Panic spread through the valley. Animals scrambled for higher ground, a chaotic ballet of fear and desperation. Eagler, circling high above, watched the rising flood with growing alarm. His usual grace was replaced by frantic wing beats as he searched for a safe place to land, but the water was everywhere, engulfing the trees and shrubs he normally perched on. Shelbert, feeling the first cold touch of the rising water, simply withdrew into his shell. The flood carried him along, a tiny, unyielding speck on the vast, turbulent surface. He bobbed gently, his shell providing a safe haven, while the eagle struggled desperately against the wind and rain. He watched, a little sadly, as Eagler finally landed, exhausted and soaked, on a small, precarious outcrop of rock, just barely above the waterline. As the flood receded, the valley was transformed. Muddy waters left behind a landscape scarred by the storm's fury. Eagler, weak and battered, looked at Shelbert, who was now calmly basking in the sun, on a patch of dry land. Shelbert looked at the eagle, his eyes full of understanding, not envy. He had seen the eagle's strength, its breathtaking freedom, but he had also seen its vulnerability, its limitations. And he had seen his own strength, his own resilience, a strength that had saved him in the heart of the storm. From that day on, Shelbert still admired Eagler's flight, but his admiration was tempered with a newfound appreciation for his own unique abilities. He understood that success wasn't measured in height or speed, but in the ability to thrive in one's own way, to find strength in one's own shell, to navigate the world according to one's own nature.